The last global climate summits did not bring any substantial improvements. The small island states, many African countries and the least developed countries generally remain existentially threatened by climate change. In Doha, there are now two important decisions. First, the 2010 Green Climate Fund will be established. And secondly, a decision regarding the expiring Kyoto Protocol is required. The Green Climate Fund should provide the necessary means to the Global South to be able to adapt to the impacts of climate change. The World Bank has determined in a study that these countries will need 100 billion by 2014 in order to adapt to the impacts of climate change. Therefore, at the COP16 in Mexico, the decision to set up the fund was taken by the international community. In Doha, it has to be clarified how these funds will support it. The developed countries are responsible for providing these funds because of their historical debt for climate change. The other important decision in Doha affects the second period of the Kyoto Protocol. The only international legally binding agreement so far faces expiration at the end of 2012. On the one hand, the United States, which had been the biggest polluter for a long time, did not commit to any binding targets. On the other hand, the big emerging economies like China, India, Brazil, Russia and Indonesia demand a prolongation of the Kyoto Protocol, solely because they are not bound to reduction commitments. At the same time, these states, in addition to the US, Canada, the EU and Japan, represent the largest climate sinners. Only 15% of global emissions are covered by the Kyoto Protocol. In a second commitment period, this part will be further reduced. Therefore, it is clear, as long as the developed and developing countries don't agree and are blocking each other, the outcome of Doha won't matter for the world's climate. Any decisions for the Green Climate Fund or a second commitment of the Kyoto Protocol cannot change this fact. Even with these two instruments, the atmosphere will heat up further. Climate mitigation must take place at the national level and in our case at the European level. It is disastrous if the major emitters of greenhouse gases, including the EU, rely on the lousy results of global climate conferences. This way, they seek an excuse for their inaction. The EU needs to move forward. The EU must increase its greenhouse gas reduction goal to 30% compared to 1990. The EU must introduce a binding target for renewable energy sources up to 45% for 2030. These measures would be a key to solving the blockage in negotiations and the climate crisis. I hope that in Doha brings more than just nice words. The schedule for international climate diplomacy is too slow. A binding agreement is planned only for 2015 that would then enter into force in 2020. At this speed, the 2-degree target, which was agreed upon in Mexico in 2010 by the international community, cannot be achieved. The global greenhouse gas emission must peak in 2015 in order to stay below 2 degrees. Otherwise, the global temperature rise will increase by more than 3.5 degrees in comparison to the beginning of industrialization.